Today is March the 16th. Today we find faith where we don't expect it. Going back to the book of Matthew, the Sermon on the Plain continues in Luke, but the rest of that sermon pretty much repeats what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount. But back in the book of Matthew, Jesus picks up the story after the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew 8, verse 5 to verse 13, we read this. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, appealing to him and saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed in terrible distress. He said to him, I'll come and cure him. The centurion answered, Lord, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof. Just speak the word and my servant will be healed. I'm also a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I say to one, go, and he goes. To another, come, and he comes. I say to my slave, do this, and my slave does it. When Jesus heard him, he was amazed. He said to those who followed him, truly I tell you, in no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from east and west and will take their places at the banquet with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the heirs of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then he said to the centurion, go, let it be done for you according to your faith. And the servant was healed in that hour. It's a beautiful story. The Roman centurion, not even Jewish. He comes to Jesus and says, I have a son who is sick. A servant who is sick, excuse me. Jesus heals the centurion's servant, and he does it from a distance. He praises the centurion for the kind of faith that he had. In the Old Testament, we find a Gentile, a pagan, who also comes to Elisha with an illness. And Elisha, in essence, heals him at a distance too. Let's read the story of Naaman and see what it can teach us here about this passage.
2 Kings 5, 1-19, New Revised Standard Version. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man in high favor with his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man, though a mighty warrior, suffered from a skin disease. Now the Arameans, on one of their raids, had taken a young girl captive from the land of Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, If only my lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his skin disease. So Naaman went in and told the Lord just what the girl from the land of Israel had said. And the king of Aram said, Go then, and I will send along the letter to the king of Israel. He went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of garments. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his skin disease. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God to give death or life, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his skin disease? Just look and see how he's trying to pick a quarrel with me. But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king, Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, that he may learn that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and halted at the entrance of Elisha's home. Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But Naaman became angry and went away, saying, I thought that for me he would surely come out and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the spot and cure the skin disease. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" He turned and went away in rage. But his servant approached him and said, "Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was, 'Wash, be clean'?" So he went down and immersed himself 7 times in the Jordan. According to the word of the man of God, his flesh was restored like the flesh of a young boy, and he was clean. He returned to the man of God, he and all his company. He came and stood before him and said, "Now I know that there is no God in all earth except in Israel. Please accept a present from your servant." But he said, "As the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will accept nothing." He urged him to accept, but he refused. Then Nahum said, "If not, please let 2 mule loads of earth be given to your servant, for your servant will no longer offer burnt offering or sacrifice to any god except the Lord. But may the Lord pardon your servant on one account. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, leaning on my arm, and I bow down in the house of Rimmon, when I do bow down in the house of Rimmon, may the Lord pardon your servant on this one account."
It's a beautiful story of the healing of Naaman. You'll notice that in both, this miraculous healing brings about worship and following. Now, in the book of John that treats this story, who is it who believes? In chapter 4, Samaritans believe. This centurion believes. Who didn't believe? The Pharisees, who were prophesying the coming of the Messiah, don't believe in the Messiah. Even John the Baptist's disciples don't believe. John was forecasting the coming of Jesus. Where you expect to find faith, you find disbelief. Where you don't expect to find it, faith shows up. What do we do about this today? Well, what has God done for you recently? How have you responded? Respond in faith with worship. Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version by Emily Herrera. If you have a question for us, drop it in the comments below.